A lot of people hated the Euphoria finale. They thought that Rue's death was manipulative, the dream sequences were too abstract, and the ending played it safe. But after sitting with it, we actually think the finale accomplished something really difficult. And it starts with Rue. Before we jump in, we want to hear from you. Were you satisfied with the ending, or do you think Euphoria got it wrong? Let us know in the comments below, and if you enjoyed TV deep dives, character analysis, and finale discussions just like this one, be sure to like the video and subscribe to Sister Couch Critics, because we've got plenty more coming. Now let's start with Rue, because whether you loved or hated the ending, almost everything hinges on how you interpret her final journey.
She's been the main character since season 1, and she dies in the final episode of season 3.
Yeah, and I feel like this episode we were getting faked out a lot. One of the opening scenes, we actually saw this slow pan of this rope leading up to her, and I didn't know if she was going to make it past that moment. She did, and her death was very tragic and kind of unexpected in a way.
I think it was unexpected because all season there were so many other more violent ways she could have died, and I think this was a really fitting way and surprising in its simplicity. And she went to sleep on a couch of Ali, a man she trusted, who, really tried to give her the roadmap to success and to redemption. And it was a peaceful death, which, considering the whole season was so surrounded by chaos, felt satisfying in a way.
Yeah, and I think her guard was really down at that moment, because when she finally got back to Alamo's house, he almost gave her a pat on the back, gave her some cash, tried to help her. Like, she was in a lot of physical pain and tried to give her something that would help her. And I think in that moment, she just didn't even see it coming. So in a way, I think it was almost better that she wasn't anticipating this. But I'll also mention, she was having a very deep conversation with Ali about why are people bad.
Yeah, and I think we saw her all season trying to kind of forgive herself and her past actions and kind of reason with why Lori's like that, why Alamo is the way that he is, and trying to make sense of a world and of the decisions she made, because Rue did hurt people over this season. And I think we saw you can be a good person and still make mistakes and want redemption, and unfortunately in Rue's case, just not have time for it.
Yeah. And I think it was interesting looking back at the rest of the season to see how much it made sense that she was leading to this ending.
Yeah, and I think it was an expected ending since season 1. I think it hurts because she was so close to redemption. She did kind of get free, and we saw her time and time again trying to stay clean and trying to stay sober, and to see her die in this way and people not know that Alamo switched it to fentanyl, and that she probably assuming she overdosed, or just, we even hear Cassie say like she was a drug addict, and not knowing the actual situation, to be misunderstood in that final moment is kind of tragic for her.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I do think that dream sequence was so beautiful and peaceful and closure in its own way, because real life didn't give her that same closure.
Yeah, and in those last moments, we saw her doing things that she loved. She was riding through her old street. She saw Jules on the bike. She saw the car with her younger sister and her mom, like those places of comfort. I thought it was especially nice touch to include some footage of Angus Cloud.
For sure, and I felt like that really made it feel like a series finale.
Yeah.
And it felt like closure for us as well as fans.
Yeah.
And it just, I think it was a beautiful ending to her story. It wasn't the only option. She could have made it to Jerusalem, Texas. I think a sober storyline where she maybe became a sponsor and helped future people would have been beautiful as well. But I think this was so tragic that it'll stick with you for a long time, and I think that's the point.
But I almost think that her death did help a lot of people. And we'll get into it a little bit further, but it helped get Maddy and Cassie out.
Yeah.
We did, in a sense, I think that they were kind of teasing that she was reborn on that farm as the calf that we saw at the end.
And I mean, they had been teasing Moses all season, who doesn't actually make it to the promised land, but helps lead others there. And so I think that maybe in the end, that's what she did.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think we have to talk about Cassie. And she had a really interesting, open-ended, kind of ambiguous ending.
Yeah. Like, we know by the end of the episode that the big threat from Alamo is off her shoulder, but we don't really know where she's going to end up. And I think part of it that makes it so haunting is the conversation that she has with Lexi, and we find out that nobody even knows what happened to Nate. So not only does she have to live with the loss, she also has to live with the burden of that knowledge.
And I think also we see this dismantling of a lot of the previous relationships she had. Lexi's kind of doing an overhaul of her life and rethinking a lot of things and saying she's going to need some space going forward. Nate's gone. Maddy, as far as she knows in her final scene, is going to be spending a lot more time at the Silver Slipper with Alamo. She says, "Don't wait up for me." So we see her all alone in her room. And she, in a way, got what she wanted. She's kind of running an OnlyFans house and, helping a lot of girls.
And she's also building some independence, which I think is important because when the season started, we saw her very much relying on their house cleaner, relying on Nate for money. She's making her own money now, and we even saw a scene where she was fixing the sink. She's deciding on the paint colors. She wanted to renovate that house so badly with Nate, and now she's doing it herself. So it's haunting, it's tragic, but there's also a sense of empowerment to it.
Yeah, and I think that scene where it kind of just pans away from the house and it looks like a dollhouse and she's like a doll inside of the dollhouse, I think that really just goes to show how, a lot of Cassie was, her decisions were made for her, and she kind of just went wherever seemed the easiest. She seemed very codependent on either Maddy or Nate, and to kind of see her as like this doll in the dollhouse, but now all the decisions are going to be her own. Yeah. And she's going to be able to turn that dollhouse into whatever she wants.
Yeah.
So it was definitely an open ending where you see she's still really sad, but there is hope for a future for her.
Yeah. Let's talk about Maddy. I was really worried for Maddy this whole season.
Yeah, she was on the top of my list to possibly die at the end of this season.
Yeah, even right up until probably the last 30 minutes, I wasn't sure she was going to make it out alive.
For sure, and I think that Maddy has always had this confidence. We see her in the last season telling Lexi, "You just gotta fake the confidence. Nobody knows if it's real." And this season, she kind of met her match, and a lot of people, Alamo especially, could kind of see that she was out of her element. She was in deep water. And so it was kind of scary to know, will she make it out of that? Can she figure it out?
Yeah, and I think that scene at the diner where Maddy and Cassie are eating French toast and it's super silent. You just hear them breathing and eating, and Maddy looks over and she's like, "What am I gonna do?" And I don't know that we've ever seen Maddy in such a vulnerable position.
Yeah, it showed the naivety that they were really tossed into this situation and how you can kind of accidentally roll into really deep water and deep trouble. But I do think that once she gets to the Silver Slipper, in that car ride really with Bishop, we kind of saw that Maddy personality come through, where she's joking around and she's having a good time, even in trouble. And that's the Maddy we know, the one that's confident and able to kind of do both.
Yeah, and ultimately it's what saved her and everyone at the Silver Slipper, because she was able to build a connection with Bishop and he was able to take that chance. I mean, he obviously had some resentment himself, but I think the fact that Maddy was also in danger kind of pushed him to make that final decision.
And in a way, Rue helped save Maddy as well, which I think was kind of touching to that Rue and Maddy friendship that we'd been seeing in those all through the seasons, in that Ali wanted to get justice for what happened to Rue, and in doing so, in getting rid of Alamo, freed Maddy to now have control over the Silver Slipper. We saw her leaving with Kitty and Bishop in the car, and it really keeping the cash and putting it into her handbag. You could kind of see that the future is going to be bright for her as that modern madame that we kind of thought she would end up being.
Yeah. And I think just knowing that her and Cassie, because I think we've kind of doubted throughout the way if they were really friends, if they really cared for each other, we saw that soulmate energy back in this episode.
Yeah, I mean, especially in the diner, and you see that little moment where Maddy kisses Cassie on the head because Cassie says, we'll figure it out together. They said in previous seasons they're soulmates, and I think that was true. You definitely see that they're going to work together. They're going to take control of that house that is kind of the ruins of Cassie and Nate's relationship, and they're going to build, again, Cassie and Maddy.
Yeah.
So I think that was a good ending for her.
Yeah, me too. A lot of tragic things went on the way. I can't imagine living with some of the knowledge of what happened, but I'm happy that their future is theirs and they can write their own story.
Sure. So next up, I think we have to talk about Ali. And he had a huge storyline, especially in this final episode.
Yeah. I mean, I hate that he had to be the one to find Rue, but I also think it was the most comforting place for Rue, and that it had to happen that way.
Yeah, and I think knowing his background and knowing that he had lost so many of the people that he sponsored, but he also felt a deeper connection to Rue than to any of them. I mean, we see in this episode he refers to her as his daughter, which was a really touching moment. It just goes to show how deep that loss cut him.
Yeah. And you could see how fractured he was when he was at the meeting and he was telling them, I'm not going to come back. I need to find another way to do good in this world.
I also thought it was really interesting how they had him, admit to falling off of his sobriety and having a drink. And I think that was a really interesting part because we saw Rue look up to him as kind of that final destination, and it really shows how sobriety is a journey and it's never guaranteed, and huge things like this can have an impact on it.
Yeah.
And so we see him end up going to kill Alamo.
Yeah. And I could see how his mindset got there. He had so many conversations with Rue about good and evil, and I think in his head, Alamo was evil.
Yeah, and I mean, from everything we've seen, it was absolutely true.
Yeah.
And definitely the way he went about it was scary. It did not seem like the Ali that we knew.
Yeah.
He was dressed in, a uniform. He locked the doors to the Silver Slipper, which was really scary for a second there. I was like, what's he gonna do?
Yeah. And I think to see an old school duel was also very true to the Western theme that they've had. And something that you pointed out when we were watching it was very true to their characters in that Ali was always a man of integrity, and he was going to wait for the bottle to drop no matter what, even though Alamo was already trying to fire prematurely.
Yeah, and I think that's really where Bishop kind of came in to shine. We saw earlier in the season when he was talking to Rue about the snake and telling the story about the snake sizing up its owner. And a lot of people thought, myself included, that he was warning Rue that they're onto him. Yeah. That they're onto her, and that they think that she's the rat, essentially. But really, he was the snake sizing up Alamo.
Yeah.
And he removed the bullets so that when Alamo would try to kill Ali, he wouldn't be able to.
Yeah.
And he knew he would cheat.
Yeah. And so he waited for his moment and it paid off.
Yeah. And I think that really was a great thing for Ali to show that there is still something out there looking out for him. Kind of gave him that hope as well. And we see him complete Rue's goal of going to Jerusalem, Texas.
Yeah, and I think that dinner with the family was absolutely beautiful. The fact that we got to see Rue at the end of the table was really full circle. And I love the moment when she said that, the calf was born 3 months ago. I think it was just that subtle storytelling that in some way, and I kind of hope it's true, that Rue is on that farm in another way.
Yeah, and I thought that the daughter there was really interesting. She seemed absolutely devastated to find out about Rue, and I think it was kind of a great comparison where both of them thought the grass was greener on the other side. All Rue wanted was to make it to that homestead and to live a simple life, disconnected, find peace, find God. And the daughter there looked at Rue and was like, I would love to go to the city and I would love to have that life. And it just kind of shown that you don't really know what's going on in someone's life.
Yeah. Okay, so what didn't we like about the finale?
I thought that Jules having one scene in the whole episode, I do think that the painting of Rue was beautiful, and I could kind of see the point of trying to remember her in a more lively state while also feeling, the hurt and the anger of what could have been, what wasn't, how they left things off. But overall, what was Jules' story this season?
Yeah, it was such a wasted character, and Jules was so deep and embedded in the first 2 seasons. It was a shame to see her locked away in this condo.
Yeah, and to introduce, her sugar daddy and to kind of give us a little bit of a peek into that with no resolution, no overarching conflict or anything like that. She's just going to continue being the sugar baby.
Yeah.
And there was no purpose really to that story.
Yeah. And the other one that I'll say that I didn't really love about this finale was the way that Rue's mom was handled. Yes, we saw her in the dream sequence, but the phone call between Ali and Leslie, I felt like we should have seen her face. Like, Nika King would have done such a good job portraying that grief in the moment, and we only heard one side of the conversation.
Yeah, in general, I think I wanted more reactions to Rue's death. I mean, That's Rue. She's the uniting character to all of these people. And I would have loved to have seen more of those initial reactions versus the months later ones that we got.
Yeah. So we know that this is actually the series finale. So let's talk a little bit about our overall reactions for the show.
Yeah, I think in the end, I'm pretty happy. I think that as sad as Rue's ending was, and it really was tragic, it fit with the show. It fit with kind of the idea of where I felt like she was heading the whole time. So I think overall, I can leave happy that most storylines were fulfilled.
Yeah, I do still feel like it left me wanting more, but ultimately this show was beautiful. It was flawed, it was complex, and I'm happy with where it is.
Yeah, I think it's rare to find a show that puts in so much intentional symbolism, metaphors, parallels. We even saw the amount of craftsmanship that they put in this season where they built the life-size dioramas for Cassiezilla and how hard they worked to create the clothing for Euphoria and the nails that would have meaning and the makeup and all of these things that became so iconic to this universe. And even season 3 being a complete change from 1 and 2 is still iconic, and people are still talking about it, and that Western motif is gaining popularity, and we're gonna probably see it a lot more because of Euphoria. So I think it blazed the trail in a lot of ways, and I think we're gonna remember it for years.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, we understand why this finale has been so divisive. There are storylines we wish had more time, characters we wanted more closure for, and creative choices that definitely won't work for everyone. But after sitting with it, we keep coming back to the same thing. Euphoria didn't end by trying to shock us. It ended by asking us to look at these characters one last time with some empathy. For us, Rue's story is what makes the finale work. Her final conversation with Ali, the questions about what makes someone good or bad, the dreamlike reunions with all the people that she loved, and ultimately her death, all felt less like a tragedy and more like a reflection on a life that mattered. Was it perfect? No. But did it work for us? Mostly yes. And that's why we think the finale deserves a little more credit than it's getting right now. Now we want to hear from you. Did you love the finale? Hate it? Or land somewhere in the middle? Let us know in the comments because we'd love to continue the conversation. And if you enjoyed the breakdown, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to Sister Couch Critics, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our upcoming coverage.
Talk to you soon. Bye.